This, sitting right beside me, is the Oris Aquis Calibre 400, and this is everything you need to know. Welcome back to Time on the Wrist at Chisholm Hunter. My name is Harrison, as always, and you might be wondering, why have I got a Breguet hat? And the reason is that we're actually doing a giveaway. We have 5 high-quality Breguet hats that we are giving to our subscribers. All you need to do is subscribe to the Chisholm Hunter channel and comment with your favorite Breguet model, and I will in turn fight you in the comments over which one you choose. But back to the video at hand. I have always had a soft spot for Oris, and the reason being is that my first ever watch was an Oris Artelaire skeleton watch. You might have seen it in my watch collection video, but that was my very first watch that got me into the luxury watch industry. Ever since I got my first Oris and I've been collecting watches, I've always kept an eye on Oris. I just have that kind of sentimental attachment. They're a family-run business and I really like the business. They contribute a lot to charities, specifically ocean charities, and when they released this a year ago, I was impressed. So without further ado, let's take a deeper dive into this Oris Aquis Calibre 400 and discuss everything you need to know. Let's begin with the specs of this model. So this is the 40mm variant, but they also have a 43.5mm variant. If you want my guidance here, I have 6.5-inch wrists, and the 40 sits a lot more comfortably on my wrist. It's not to say that the 43.5 is bad, it's just that little bit too big for me. The thickness of this watch comes in at, according to our digital calipers, 13.5mm. And the lug to lug comes in at, according to our digital calipers, 45mm. This is a thick watch, and that's partially because it's a diver that can go to 300 meters. It does sit that little bit off the wrist, and to be honest, I do prefer slimmer watches. But you can understand why it's that thick when it has a 5-day power reserve. A 5-day power reserve. That's crazy. Now let's get this on the scales and see how much it weighs. Remember that this is a fully functional diver and it's got the full metal bracelet, not the rubber strap. It weighs 153 grams. And that is a brilliant segue into talking about the bracelet and the rubber strap. You get the two options, you either get the rubber or the bracelet. My personal preference when I choose watches is always the rubber. It just suits my lifestyle a little bit more. I prefer to get out and about, outside, and do photography and videography. When I have a bracelet, it scratches that little bit more because I'm a little bit clumsy, so I do go for the rubber straps. With that said, if you're wanting that something a little more dressy, then I would go with the bracelet. And to be honest, guys, I actually prefer the bracelet on the Oris than the Omega Seamaster that I have on at the moment. I have the rubber strap on at the moment. I think the bracelet on this Oris is nailed it. The reason that I prefer it is because it has 3 links. It has a brushed steel link down the bottom and depolished at either side. Whereas the Omega, or my Omega, the bracelet, it has a sort of 5-link feel with 2 lines or 4 lines of polished. I just think this is that little bit more aesthetically appealing and it pops out the dial that little bit more. But that is just my personal preference, and it's not to say that I don't like the Omega Seamaster because, well, I'm wearing one. The bracelet tapers off quite quickly, but one thing that I have to say is it is quite thin towards the back. And I can understand the style, but I would have preferred that little bit thicker. It has a deployment clasp on the bracelet and it sits really, really comfortably on the wrist. The case and bracelet are made entirely from stainless steel, and I love this feel. When you pick it up in the morning, it feels cold to touch, it feels quality. I actually have a Tudor Blancpain at home at the moment, and it's my only watch with a bracelet, and it just feels really quality, and it has the same feel as this. This watch sports sapphire crystal glass with anti-reflective coating on the underbelly, not on both sides, on the underbelly, and sometimes I actually prefer the anti-reflective coating only on the underbelly because when it's on both sides, it can pick up some scratches. So although it's easier to see through, you kind of need to weigh it out. The crown guards are squared off and the crown sits really comfortably in between. The teeth aren't too prominent and neither is the crown. It's quite short and stubby and it doesn't dig into the wrists, but it's still functional and easy to turn. I really, really like this. I actually prefer it to quite a few of the other watches that I have in my diving collection. Fitting in with that fully functional diving theme is the bezel. The bezel is obviously made from ceramic, which is very scratch resistant and very durable. And then you have the teeth. Now, the interesting thing about this is the teeth are very, very pronounced and prominent. And if you think about it from a logical sense of view, when a diver has a big, thick wetsuit on, he needs that grip in order to turn it. When you compare it just with the Omega Seamaster that I have in my wrist, it doesn't really have as prominent teeth. So technically speaking, it's maybe not as functional. By the way, before we go any further, I'm actually a little bit ill. I have a cold, it's not COVID, but I apologize if I sound a little nasally. The bezel is in a dark blue color and it's really, really readable. You can read all the symbols and numbers on it really easily, and it all seems to draw you into the middle of the dial. And let me explain. The dial is obviously blue, but it has a gradient. It starts from darker blue and works its way into the lighter blue color. And because the bezel is also that dark color, it seems to merge in with the dial that little bit more seamlessly. Well done, Oris, it's a good trait. And that is a great segue onto the face. So the face of this watch is obviously a beautiful blue color. The date window is at 6 o'clock, which I love. In terms of symmetry, for me, I would always go for 6 o'clock date windows. It feels that little bit more aesthetically appealing. And as a photographer, you always look for the lines and things. The Oris logo is positioned really, really comfortably at the 12 o'clock mark, and above the date window is all the information. So you have your range, which is your Aquis, 300 meter water resistance, and 5-day power reserve. Just to reinforce the idea that it's 5 days, because that's crazy for the price. The hands and the indices all have Super Luminova along with that little dot in the bezel because it is a fully functional dive watch. So where is my torch? Wait, give me a second. Let's take a look at the Lume. And here is the beautiful Lume. It's in a beautiful blue color and it contrasts really, really nicely with the dial. It shines really, really bright in the dark as well. That Lume is beautiful, it has to be said, but I do prefer the combination of green and blue Lume. I just think it adds that little bit of flavor, that little bit of spice. And I know that this isn't a comparison video, but the Omega does have this. But we have done a comparison video before, so I'll link it up here for you. Before we move on to that beautiful movement, I am going to tell a little bit of a personal story. When I turned 17 for my 17th birthday, I got my first watch. It was the Oris Artillery skeleton watch. My parents picked up for Chisholm Hunter and got it for me, and I loved that watch. I honestly did, and I have a sentimental attachment to Oris because of that. There's not many brands that I can say that about, but Oris is one of them. Another reason I feel that sentimental attachment is because they're a family-run business. Just like Chisholm Hunter, a family-run business, so are these. And in the last 2 years, they've really came back onto my radar because they've started producing in-house movements, and not just started producing, not the run-of-the-mill in-house movements. These movements are powerhouses. The movement is the incredible Oris Calibre 400. It has 120 hours of power. That's 5 days. That's 5 days. That's 5 days. It has 21 joules, beats at a frequency of 28,800 VPH, and is awesome. Now, I want you to think of the price for a second. The price comes in at £2,700. Let's think about this movement in comparison to others in the industry and the fact that you get 120 hours of power. That is 5 days. When will you ever not wind it or not wear it for 5 days? But if you do, I have the solution. Chisholm Hunter actually have their very own watch winders, not the watch box, but the watch winders, and I'll link them below for you. There's something that I need to say. I have always vowed on this channel to be very honest and open. If there is something I don't like about a watch, I will tell you. If there's something that impresses me, I will tell you. This has a 10-year guarantee, and that's impressive. I want you to think of that as in car terms. When you're buying a car, they would not give you a 10-year guarantee because the odds are they know it's going to break down. Oris know and believe in their craftsmanship of their in-house movement enough to give you a 10-year guarantee. That's mad. And with that last incredible point about the Oris Aquis Cal 400, you still have the chance to win our Breguet hat. All you need to do is hit this subscribe button and comment with your favorite Breguet model. Drew and I are going to get some lunch. I think we're going to go to this place called Sugo. It's awesome. It's in Glasgow. It does pasta and it's really, really cool. But yeah, take care.